Why would you use the offset function in Excel? And how do you use the offset function in Excel? A very common reason why people use the offset function in Excel is having standardized reporting with changing datasets. For example, the two charts that you see in this Excel workbook represent the number of monthly views on my Finance Storyteller YouTube channel on the left and the number of quarterly views on the right. Using the drop-down box at the top, I can switch between the years 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 and future years once that data is available. The views data and month labels for the blue line on the left always get pulled from cells K21 through L32, whatever year I select. The views data and quarter labels for the blue bars on the right always get pulled from cells M21 through N24, whatever year I select. You could do the same with your charts on revenue, expenses, margins, headcount, or whatever the metric is that you are tracking. The reporting is standardized and stays in the same format. I just want to add new rows and new columns to the dataset when data becomes available for new time periods. On a monthly basis, I just add the latest results without having to update any formulas. That's what the offset function in Excel is doing for us. Offset is used here as the linking pin between dataset and charts. Let's hide the charts for a moment and show you how the offset function works. If we change the year in cell F1, then the data in columns L and N is changing. The original dataset, which is in cells A20 through I32, does not change. The offset function doesn't actually move any cells. It just returns a reference. The central cell that makes things happen is L20, which is a calculation of the offset in number of years versus the first year in the table. If we go to Formulas, Trace Dependence, we see that L20 impacts each of the months in cell L21 through L32 and each of the quarters in cells N21 through N24. If the year is 2016, then the offset is 0 and the data in column L is the same as in column B. If the year is 2017, then the offset is 1 and the data in column L is the same as in column C. If the year is 2018, then the offset is 2 and the data in column L is the same as in column D. If the year is 2019, then the offset is 3 and the data in column L is the same as in column E. Let's get into the detail of the function arguments of the offset function. Let's review those with the year set to 2017. Select cell L21, go to the Home tab, Functions, More Functions, and review the function arguments in the dialog box. Use offset to find certain data for you, so you need to tell the function where to go for the data. The first argument is called a reference. This is like defining a base station for the expedition, the starting point. I took the top left cell of the table, B21. I could also have taken a range of cells like B21 through I21. This would have given me the same result, as Excel would take the leftmost cell out of that range as the starting point. Next argument is rows. How many rows, up or down, would you like to go from starting point B21? Rows can be positive, which means below the starting reference, or negative, which means above the starting reference. In this offset function, 0. We want to stay on the same row, which is row 21. Next is columns. How many columns, left or right, would you like to go from starting point B21? Columns can be positive, which means to the right of the starting reference, or negative, which means to the left of the starting reference. Here I didn't input a fixed number of columns, I made this dynamic by referring to cell L20, which in turn depends on the year selected from the drop-down box. I have locked column L and row 20 in this function argument with $signs, as we don't want this column and row reference to change when we copy the cell. Then there are two optional arguments, height and width. How high in number of rows would you like the returned reference to be? How wide in number of columns would you like the returned reference to be? We go with 1 and 1, the size of a single cell. This formula I have then copied down the column for each of the months, and I added a sum total at the bottom. Could I use a different starting point somewhere else in the table and get the same result returned? Most certainly. Let's go back to L21. We can start our offset from cell I32. Move up 11 rows by typing -11 and move left 6 columns by typing -6. This returns the same result as before, which is the number of views in cell C21. But the formula is now no longer dynamic as it does not depend on cell L20. Let's undo that change. Two very common error messages that can occur when using the offset function in Excel are #ref and #value. If I ask the offset function to start at cell B21 and then move 2 columns to the left, I input -2, then the offset is outside the range of the worksheet, creating the #ref error. Asking the offset function to return, for example, a result of 2 rows in height and 2 columns in width into one single cell creates the #value error. The offset function can be used in combination with other functions. In fact, it can be used with any function expecting a reference argument. For example, in column N, I have nested the offset function within a sum function. In order to get quarterly numbers, I need to sum 3 months. This number over here is the sum of these numbers over here. And this number over here is the sum of these numbers. The offset function that is nested here is very similar to the offset function that we saw before. It uses cell B21 as the reference, the starting point. Then it moves 0 rows, in other words, stays in the same row. It takes a look at cell L20 to find out how many columns to move to the right. It has a height of 3, in other words, return us the cell you find and the 2 cells below it. It has a width of 1, just the 1 column. For Q2, start 3 rows lower in April. For Q3, use July as the reference. For Q4, use October. As a check, I put a sum total for the quarters, which should give the same number as the sum total for the months. So that's the offset function nested within another function, in this case, sum. We can also nest other functions within the offset function. Let's take a look at G35. The function arguments dialog box shows a preview on the right. The reference or starting point is cell G20. The row argument has a nested COUNTA function inside it. COUNTA gives you the number of cells in a range that are not empty. What we are asking Excel here is to look at cells G21 through the G32, which is the 12 months in this year, and find out how many rows out of these 12 have data. The column holds data from January through July, so that's 7 months. Dear offset function, please start at G20, move down 7 rows, stay in the same column, and return the results of just the 1 cell that you find. In this way, you can use the offset function in Excel to always give you the latest results for a column. If we add a new value to the dataset, then G35 will display that value, as the number of cells in the range that are not empty has now increased by 1. Bonus tip. Let's unhide the charts and zoom out a little. How is it possible to have that chart title change, the year displayed and the number of views for that year displayed, every time we change the year selection in the drop-down box? There is no possibility to insert a direct formula in the chart title, but you can link to a cell that has a formula. The titles of both charts pick up the data from cell L18. This cell simply combines the year in cell F1 with the word views and the sum of the total year views in cell L33.